Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Bree Kirsch, and I'll be the moderator for this session titled Navigating AI in Special Education. We do have our code of conduct, which I am posting in the chat, along with our email address, galeconferenceupport@googlegroups.com, if you have any concerns that you'd like to notify us of. Please use the Q&A or chat to enter in your questions, which we will be answering, time permitting, at the end of the presentation. This session is being recorded. You can enable captions by clicking on the Show Captions button at the bottom of the screen. It is my pleasure to introduce Benita Ghura, User Experience Librarian at National University Library, and Amanda Bezet, Graduate Student Success Librarian at National University Library. Please join me in welcoming Benita Ghura and Amanda Bezet.
Great. Thank you so much, Bree. And it's a real pleasure to be here and to be invited to speak at this conference. As Bree mentioned, my name is Benita, and I'm the user experience as well as the education librarian at National University. And I've been with the university for 6 years now.
And my name is Amanda Bezet. I am the Graduate Student Success Librarian at National University. I also liaison to the School of Education, and I am a doctoral student within that same school as well. We're so excited that you're here.
So before we delve into what we have done with generative AI at National University, I just want to provide a little bit of background about who we are and where we come from. So National University was founded over 50 years ago in 1971 by a US Navy captain with the goal of supporting deployed soldiers and veterans. And to this day, we still continue that tradition as being the top educator of the US military, and we are the largest private nonprofit university in San Diego. We do have a campus, but we are a primarily online university, and we are 100% online library. Today, we have 4 colleges and 3 schools that offer either a 4-week or 8-week course structure, and it is designed to cater to the working adult who has other priorities and is coming back to school. As librarians, we work on the liaison model with 4 librarians dedicated to supporting the Stanford College of Education, which is one of our largest colleges within National University. Within that college, there are 4 departments, and we're focusing primarily on the special education department, which runs the clinical practice program. The clinical practice program provides a pathway for students to earn the preliminary education specialist teaching credential, either through student teaching or an internship. And last year, there were 730 students that passed through this program. So it's very large. So how did our AI webinar come about? Well, the clinical program is run by our regional clinical practice coordinators, which I will shorten to RCPCs, and they oversee the clinical program in 7 districts across California. They coordinate the placements for our teacher candidates and manage the university coaches who support the student interns and teachers. Now, with the rise and proliferation of Gen AI tools, concern was expressed by the academic program director that students were utilizing these tools without any guidance or parameters. And at that time, when this discussion started, there weren't any in place. And so because we have a very close relationship that we have developed with the special education program, the APD felt comfortable in reaching out to the library to look to us to lead the way in the ethical and responsible uses of Gen AI tools. So now that you have a little bit of background about how our AI webinar started, I would like to invite you to join us on Mentimeter. And using the code 2387 1083, would like to hear from you about what your top concerns are about students who use Gen AI tools. And I will also put that code in the chat. Well, we could come back to this as people think about what concerns their institution has with Gen AI tools. Moving on specifically to the concerns that our academic program expressed was the main three concerns in regards to AI usage was first, over-reliance. There was a concern that this would affect students' critical thinking skills and their ability to solve problems or to synthesize the information. And then there was also concern that there was a lack of critically evaluating the information provided by the Gen AI tools for accuracy and authoritativeness, and that there was concern that students were blindly accepting the information without fact-checking first. There was also concern that students were copying verbatim AI-generated content with the lack of understanding that this violated academic integrity and that they were not sure how to use the Gen AI tools ethically and responsibly with the need to provide citations or to be able to generate their own work that would reflect the student's genuine voice and tone. And lastly, there were varying skill levels in the application and comprehension of how Gen AI tools worked. So in other words, the AI literacy skills level varied among the students, and the more competent users had a distinct advantage over the more novice users.
AI use by students, faculty, and staff at National University is currently guided by 4 resources that have been evolving over the last few years. First, the broad institutional statement on AI use governed appropriate use before any detailed guidelines or policies were developed. And this statement reads, students who submit AI-generated work as their own are committing plagiarism. Failure to submit original work, cite sources according to disciplinary standards, and confirm the validity of the content represents academic dishonesty and is subject to the Student Code of Conduct. Next, the Academic Success Center, which serves as a coaching center for all academic writing, citing resources, and statistics, created an AI LibGuide providing an overview of AI, pros and cons of AI use, academic integrity, information, and proper citation formatting for AI-generated content. About a year later, the library's AI LibGuide was created to provide some more comprehensive information and answer student and faculty questions regarding AI, ChatGPT, other large language models, and their relationship to academia. This guide also includes library recommended AI tools and resources, and we go over techniques such as how to find similar research articles using free AI products. Nearly 2 years later, in February 2025, that's when Benita and I offered the first instance of our AI webinar titled Artificial Intelligence, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Finally, in March 2025, the Student Faculty Use Guidelines to Generative AI Tools at NU was published, and these guidelines aim to facilitate the responsible and ethical use of AI in the classroom while also encouraging faculty and staff to embrace the innovative use of artificial intelligence to enhance their education. Now, just policy was drafted by the Academic Affairs Council and circulated to all employees for feedback. So that policy is forthcoming.
So now that you know where National University is in regards to our AI policy, we're curious to hear from you if your institution has a clear Gen AI usage policy. Because it's interesting to know how many of the universities are actually now starting to develop this. And we've heard differing viewpoints. So it seems like it does still differ across the board. Thank you for participating.
With the background of the AI guidelines, we wanted to better understand how faculty were currently using AI in the curriculum. So we emailed a 5-question survey to the regional clinical practice coordinators, again, the RCPCs, within the special education clinical program. And just to reiterate, the clinical practice is often referred to as student teaching or field experience. This involves supervised teaching and practice in a school setting with students who have diverse learning needs. One area where the RCPCs were using AI was drafting announcements, organizing planning documents, and clarifying communication for clinical practice and meetings. Another common use was for faculty to clarify I'm sorry, I already said that, was to provide feedback on students' lesson plans, annotations, and reflections. And an example that was provided to us by the faculty, an example prompt was complementing a student teacher's lesson plan on community signs for extensive needs high school students. So that's actually one of the prompts that they are using. Now, when it comes to providing this feedback, they are more specifically using it to summarize strengths and weaknesses of these lengthy lesson plans that these special education students are submitting, as well as generating synopses of what the actual instruction would look like based on that submitted lesson plan. The faculty are also uploading scoring rubrics to generate a summary of the strengths and weaknesses or actionable areas for improvement that they will then bring to these debriefings with their special education students. And finally, another use that they are using AI for is creating PowerPoints, resumes, meeting agendas, ad copy, some common uses.
So as we developed this AI webinar, we wanted to be really thoughtful about what we were teaching the special education students. So we identified 3 core areas for best practices in teaching our online special education candidates. And this was AI literacy skills, as Amanda just demonstrated, providing practical examples of how to use Gen AI. And then lastly, because we are in the online learning environment, we wanted to also address privacy and data security concerns. So early on, I mentioned as we were developing the AI webinar, the RCPCs expressed concern on how AI literacy skills varied amongst the students, and how students who had a better grasp on AI literacy had a distinct advantage. Therefore, our first best practice was to promote AI literacy by opening up the discussion on ethical awareness, algorithm biases, and providing clarity on the permissible and impermissible uses of AI. This goal was achieved in a lecture-style presentation where we provided key definitions of Gen AI concepts and highlighted the new NU AI usage guidelines that were just launched. We also incorporated within the webinar self-assessment checks to determine participants' current level of AI literacy, and we used this check as a foundational basis to build upon. So many students rated themselves between good and fair on a 4-point quality scale ranging from great to poor. Then in our practical example, we wanted to demonstrate how AI could be used, excuse me,
Bless you.
thank you, how AI could be used as a personal tutor. So this was addressing the RCPC's concerns of ethical and responsible uses of Gen AI. So some of the permissible ways in which students can use a Gen AI tool in order to enhance their learning experience is being able to submit assignments and receive real-time assistance and feedback, especially since our students are distant learners. They need to be able to access assistance according to what their schedule allows. Thirdly, is what we demonstrated was that they could also customize their experience with ChatGPT based upon their program that they were in and their degree requirements, and use Gemini as a coaching tool. So later on in this webinar, we will share specific examples of how that is applied in practice. Lastly, the other concern that students had was privacy and data security about how the Gen AI tool collected data and how this might possibly be shared with third-party entities. Therefore, we wanted to address this concern within the webinar and also to caution students not to share confidential or sensitive information or personal details while they are chatting with the ChatGPT. So specifically, this included not to include any specific full names, not to share any of the course content that was created by the learning experience designers at National University, and then also to be aware of the library's vendor licensing agreements, which meant that any articles that they found through the library database, they should not upload or share with the Gen AI tools. We did also include that if it was an open access article, then that would be all right to share. Also, within the ChatGPT, there are 2 additional measures that students can take to safeguard their privacy and the information that they can share. Within ChatGPT, students can enable temporary chat. This ensures that their conversation with ChatGPT won't appear in their history and that the ChatGPT won't retain any memory of the conversation. Although OpenAI does say that for safety's sake, they do keep a copy of the chat for up to 30 days, but it is supposed to be deleted after the 30 days. In addition, when you do enable temporary chat, it will not be used for training to improve future models of the chat GPT. The second safeguard can be found in the data control settings of ChatGPT, and this allows the user to control whether or not their conversation can help improve OpenAI's models. The conversations will still appear in the chat history, but they assure us that it won't be used to train the chatbot. But we do caution students, even if they do enable these 2 additional safety security measures, they still should not share any confidential or private information because we really don't know how robust these safety measures are. In addition, we also wanted to introduce students to prompt engineering, and this was to enhance their AI literacy skill to understand what prompt engineering is and how developing this skill can really affect the outcome that they receive from the Gen AI tool that they use. So because our primary demographic is special education students, we introduce students to this website called AI for Education. Now, AI for Education is led by professionals in the field, and they have vast experience in teaching education. The goal of the website is to lead the responsible adoption of generative AI in the education ecosystem. They also have extensive partnerships with public schools, school districts, and county-level education agencies. Therefore, it is a credible and authoritative site that we feel comfortable directing our students to. The services and resources that the students can find on this website include free courses about Gen AI usage, free AI resources for the classroom. It also includes a series of webinars customized specifically for teachers, as well as a really comprehensive and detailed prompt library that students can adapt for their use. Some of the prompts that the library includes are prompts for assessments, lesson planning, as well as special education. AI for Education has also introduced a framework that students can follow when they're figuring out what type of prompt to give the ChatGPT model. So this framework is called the 5S model, and what it includes is number one is setting the scene, in which the student can provide the context on the role in which they want the Gen AI model to assume. So for example, the student can direct the Gen AI model to be an expert in the field, or to be a professor, or to respond back as a colleague. We also tell students that they should be specific, so their prompt should clearly define the task that they want from the chatbot and provide all relevant details so that they get a comprehensive response back. Also, they need to simplify their language according to this 5S model. So we tell students to assume that they're speaking at a grade 5 level to the chatbot. They also have the option to structure their output. So for example, they could ask the chatbot to give the response back as either bullet points, an outline, or an essay style response. Lastly, we tell students that this is a skill that will take time to develop, and so the first time they enter a prompt, not to expect a perfect response back from the chatbot. So in regards to that, they're having an ongoing dialogue with the chatbot, and it's important that they share feedback so that they can tweak the response that they are receiving.
So the webinar we designed provides a practical hands-on approach to AI use in higher education, moving beyond the theoretical discussions into demonstrations of how AI can actually support these student assignments. And as discussed throughout, it was obviously initially developed for our special education students and faculty. However, the webinar is actually open to the entire university, as the examples are certainly adaptable to any subject area, providing a scalable and responsible framework for AI integration in higher education. Here I would like to emphasize four major components of the webinar Benita and I created that make it unique. And that is the aspect of personalization, lesson planning, IEP goals, and research paper topics. And I'm going to talk about each of these. So first, we present to students how they can personalize AI to provide a more customized learning experience, as Benita previously mentioned. The example we present is using the customized ChatGPT feature to enter details about the user. So the example we use is entering the prompt, I am a graduate student getting my Master of Education in Special Education with preliminary education specialist credential, extensive support needs, teaching credential with internship option. Now, we also discuss how they can then in turn specify traits that ChatGPT should have when responding to their prompts. So an example of this would be, you are an expert in special education, trained in California's CCTC aligned teaching standards. You provide detailed evidence-based guidance on inclusive teaching strategies, behavior management, and assessment practices for students with extensive support needs. You also assist with academic research, helping users find studies on differentiated instruction, social emotional learning, and assistive technology for special education. So moving on to the lesson planning, we provide specific example prompts that students can enter when help with their lesson planning assignments. So An example of this would be provide a 30-minute lesson overview for English grade 5 using California content standards and/or curriculum framework. These students are special needs, so incorporate supports and adaptations. Include Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. So similarly, we also provide example prompts where they can use it to create individualized education programs or plans, IEPs. An example of this might be, I need an IEP reading fluency goal aligned with Common Core state standards for a student whose baseline reading is 30 words per minute with 60% accuracy on grade level text. So we also devote a significant amount of time during the webinar to addressing ethical uses of AI for these special education students' research papers. So these techniques include generating topic ideas, identifying gaps in the literature, generating outlines, finding synonyms, and creating library search strings with Boolean operators, and organizing references according to main topic area. An example prompt that we provide in this segment is identify a gap in the literature as it relates to teachers' perceptions of differentiated instruction in special education classrooms. So as you can see, again, the example is very much geared towards special education, but librarians and other educators could certainly utilize a similar structure adapted in your own context.
So now that you see how we've adapted it to special education students, would love to learn if you do use Gen AI tools in your institution, if you have any customized examples that you share with students or your users. So it'd be interesting to see if you do. And you may not yet, which is perfectly all right. Oh, not
Not
yet.
yet.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
That's
It's still a
okay.
very new field, right? So now that we've delved deeply into the content of the AI webinar, we want to go back a little bit to explain how it developed and how we structured our AI webinar. So as Amanda mentioned, even though it was geared specifically towards special education students, we offered it freely available to all the NU community, and it has been very well received across the university. The success of the AI webinar was demonstrated in our statistics for library events this year. As of June 3rd, we have provided over 2,000 library events, and our AI webinar was ranked the second highest in terms of registered event out of the 2,000. So we first launched the AI webinar in February of this year, and since February, we have presented the AI webinar 10 times, with half of those sessions being listed in the top 25 registered events for the library year to date. So these statistics demonstrate not only the popularity of this webinar, but also its relevance to the higher education community at National University. For our initial launch of the AI webinar in February, we decided to experiment with different days and times. So for the first month, we offered it 4 times. And we found out specifically for our university that the 6 to 7 p.m. time slot was very popular, which makes sense because we cater to working adults. And then the second time slot that was also very popular was Fridays early in the afternoon. So based upon that, moving forward is how we decided the day and time to offer this webinar. So even though attendance was really high, we felt that our students would benefit if we changed the structure. Because of the wealth and vast amount of information we wanted to share, we were coming across the problem that we did not have enough time allotted for the practical side, where we wanted to share examples of how to use Gemini and ChatGPT. So we wanted students to have that actual live experience of how they would enter in prompts and what responses they would receive. So we made the decision in March to restructure the presentation from a single 90-minute session to a two-part series, each session lasting 1 hour each. So what we felt was that this empowered the student to select and decide which session they wanted to go to and which one would provide greater benefit for them. As of today, in this new format, we have provided 6 sessions, and they're very much equal in regards to registration and attendance. So that demonstrates to us that both parts are still very much needed by our demographics. So as I mentioned earlier, to date, we have had a total of 10 webinars, and we have had a total of 96 attendees attending throughout those 10 webinars. We also are polling the people that attend our webinars to get their feedback and to tweak and adjust the AI webinar according to what the response is that we received. So out of the 96 attendees, 50 participated in the poll, and out of those 50, 42% said that they were satisfied with the content of the AI webinar, which brings it to an 84% satisfaction rate out of those that participated in the poll. So we also include open-ended questions in our poll as well. So it's very gratifying for us to see the feedback that we receive from the participants. And then these are some of the comments that students provided as we were providing the webinar.
So while our AI webinar has done much to educate the NU community, challenges and ethical considerations related to AI use in academia persist, and maybe even more pronounced in our virtual environments. NU faculty are concerned about loss of student voice in coursework, and they're concerned with students' over-reliance on AI applications, as Benita mentioned at the beginning of this presentation. They are concerned with gaps in students' abilities to fact check, and they are concerned with varying access and training levels as it relates to AI. Another serious concern, and one in which we frequently encounter within the NU library, is that of hallucinated citations, as I am sure you all, or many of you, are experiencing as well. To combat this, we offer a second AI webinar called Hallucination Check, Verifying Sources in the Age of AI, and our colleagues presented on this yesterday at the Gale Conference. Additionally, faculty members routinely will actually contact the library to check up on suspected hallucinated citations from a student's work. Finally, faculty are concerned about AI detection. And while they currently have access to AI detection tools within both Grammarly and Turnitin, the accuracy and reliability of these tools is still very much in question. Further, bias in these detection tools is a serious concern. Research suggests that AI detectors may disproportionately flag the writing of non-native English speakers or students with certain learning differences due to stylistic patterns that the algorithms misinterpret as AI generated. So all of these concerns obviously are persisting. We wanted to share some of our future directions following the development of this webinar as well. So Benita and I plan to continue revising the current AI webinars based on the changing needs of faculty and students, as well as the emergence of new AI products. And we know those are coming out almost on a daily basis. We are also thinking to expand the current AI webinar offerings to become an entire dedicated series on AI literacy. The reason for this is because we've had previous success attracting students to a webinar series we offer called Library Dissertation Toolbox. Next, we would like to present this webinar to faculty from other departments within the Sanford College of Education. Additionally, we would like to create an AI prompt library for the special education clinical practice program to assist with their assignments. And most recently, Benita and I worked with our library's multimedia team to complete a short tutorial video based on the content that we present in the AI webinar, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And this video is available from the library's AI guide. And we do have that guide available for you on this references page, as well as some of the literature that we did consult as we were not only putting together the initial webinar, but putting together today's presentation.
Thank you so much, everybody, for attending our webinar, and would like to open it up now to any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Benita and Amanda, for your interesting presentation. I don't see any questions yet, but for those here, please put those questions in the Q&A or in the chat or on the Menti. And while we're waiting for others to put in questions, I have a question for you. So you mentioned in your future AI webinar series that you're planning. I was just curious what topics you're hoping to focus on during those sessions.
That's a great question, Bree. Thank you for asking that. And I think we'll both answer because we each have different ideas. I definitely want to do an entire session dedicated to finding similar resources based on existing literature that a student has already gathered. Typically, this would be for a doctoral dissertation, but it could be for student research papers as well. So taking that like root source and then using AI tools that exist to find related literature. So I definitely want to do a session on that.
I think what we also want to do with the series is still keep the component that talks about the theoretical concepts of Gen AI, because we know it's going to continually evolve. So new concepts might come up, and also new features within ChatGPT and Gemini are constantly coming up as well. So we want to keep that component of it. As Amanda mentioned, putting it out there to other departments within the School of Education. But I'm also the paralegal librarian, and legal Gen AI tools are currently on the market as well. So also having a webinar dedicated specifically to our paralegal and law school students and how that would be applicable in their coursework.
Those sound really interesting.
Thank you.
And while we're waiting for others to put in questions, I have another one. Do you have any recommendations for librarians beginning to plan AI teaching sessions or webinars? So for those just getting started on this, do you have recommendations for them?
There is a educator that I followed on social that he goes over all of the new tools and how it relates to academic use. So I'm going to find that and then I'll put the link. I don't know what it's called offhand, but I'll put that in the chat because that was so helpful to me to like know what to even investigate because there's so much out there. It can be overwhelming. I saw a participant yesterday say, yeah, I've heard of all these, but I don't have time to investigate these. And so I think that this particular educator does a really great job reviewing what's there and tying it back to higher education specifically.
I would also advise that the person think about what their learning objectives are for the webinar, and then kind of develop the webinar based upon those learning objectives. And I would say for Amanda and myself, what really helped was having a very strong partnership with the special education faculty, because their input also guided us on how we were developing the webinar. So before we even launched the webinar, library-wide to the NU community, we actually presented the webinar to the Special Education Clinical Practice Program to solicit their feedback on what they thought that webinar should include. So that feedback was really informative on how we presented our AI webinar.
Okay, great. And we have a few more questions coming in. Do you have a copy of the video or PowerPoint or assorted files that you would be willing to share?
Yeah, we can absolutely make a copy of the PowerPoint slides that we have and share it with Gail, which I believe they can distribute to the participants.
We also have a Discord channel for your session if you wanted to post them there, or if you prefer, you can send them to me and I can post them there for you. So check the Discord and check our website. We'll try to share out any resources that all the presenters share with us. Thank you for that.
Okay.
And feel free to connect with us one-on-one too. I put our email addresses. So if you're trying to hunt around for whatever it is that you're interested in, definitely just feel free to reach out to us directly and we'll make sure we get you what you're interested in. Because our recording is posted publicly right now within our AI guide. So that's easy to get to and we're happy to share any supplemental resources.
And I see, Amanda, you've pasted in the YouTube account. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, it just it, like the top video that's featured is called the best AI tools for academia in 2025. So it's a 13 and a half minute video, and it really helps you to comprehend everything that is out there and what the use is. And there are multiple additional videos, but those are the ones that I like, those quick reviews that help get you in there and get acquainted with what's available.
We also had the question, how long are the webinars? And Stephanie responded, they're about 45 minutes. Is that correct?
Yeah, give
So,
or take.
yeah.
Great. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions currently, but we'll give people maybe one more minute to see if they have other questions that they're feverishly typing. Otherwise, while we're waiting to see if there are more questions out there, I wanted to thank you both for your presentation, and we appreciate you presenting for Gail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right, well, I'm still not seeing any more questions, so feel free to reach out individually with Amanda and Benita if you do have other questions, since they've shared their emails with us. And now I'm going to end the webinar. Thank you, everybody, for attending.